Moo! Hey guys, welcome to today's video. I wanted to make these special cow cupcakes for my dad's 45th birthday, so I hope you guys enjoy, and let's get on to the video. So in this recipe, I'm going to follow how Claire used her reverse creaming method, which is basically mixing in the fats and the liquids to the dry ingredients. This, from what she says, is going to make a flatter cake and make it have a more uniform crumb. So just start by adding your flour, your sugar, your baking powder, your salt, and your baking soda, and just let that mix until thoroughly combined in your stand mixer or with a hand mixer, depending on what you're using. I did use kefir in this recipe instead of buttermilk because it was what I had on hand. So I did it in about 2 to 3 additions where I would go ahead and add my kefir, my olive oil, as well as my butter. She actually called for a neutral oil such as vegetable or grapeseed, but again, I just used what I had on hand, and I don't know what her recipe would obviously taste like, but if she were to make it, but I honestly thought it turned out perfect. It was probably the best vanilla cake I've ever made before. But just continue to add your fats and your liquids in, like I said, 2 to 3 increments until it's well combined and completely incorporated. Okay, so here I went ahead and just added my last stick of butter and turned my mixer on. I will say this is a really good example of trust the process. I was getting a little bit nervous because I've never made this recipe before, and I don't have the best track record when it comes to making vanilla cakes. But anyways, it was a little thick, but something I had to remember was we still had 9 eggs that we needed to add. Well, 6 large egg whites and 3 regular eggs. So yeah, just trust the process. And also something I wanted to add here, something I did so you don't have to do it. I added a little too much egg and I turned my mixer on a little too high of a speed, which then in return, of course, caused some of the egg to splat out of my mixer. So just make sure you add them in increments and turn the mixer on low until they're well combined. But the batter should be pretty smooth and not as thick. I mean, it was still, I would say, a thicker batter, which I didn't mind at all, and it turned out really, really well. Better than I expected, to be honest. One of the best cakes I've tried. But yeah, just mix until smooth, scrape down your sides, and just repeat until it's well combined. This was my absolute favorite part of this recipe, was adding the rainbow sprinkles into the mix. I did add a little bit extra because I'm extra and I like extra sprinkles, and I wanted the extra color in the cupcakes, especially because they were for my dad's birthday. So I would say I probably added 3/4 cup, and then I also sprinkled some on top. So once you add them to your batter, just make sure you mix it with a spatula, like a rubber spatula, instead of putting it back into the mixture. Yep, so her recipe actually called for cakes, but I wanted to turn them into mini cupcakes, and it ended up yielding, I would say, about 36 cupcakes. So right now I'm using an ice cream scooper actually, so that they're more uniform and all similar in size, and I just went ahead and scooped the batter right in there. Once you're done filling the cupcake liners or your cake pans, whichever you're using, just go ahead and put them in the oven at 350 degrees for about 30 minutes. Honestly, the cupcakes I would say took about 20. I would say this was certainly the most intimidating part of the cupcakes, was the Italian meringue buttercream I was making, but I was honestly really satisfied with how it turned out. So I just started by putting my egg whites, my cream of tartar, my salt, and part of the sugar, all but 1/3 cup, I went ahead and added to my stand mixer, and I'm going to go ahead and start whipping my egg white mixture until it's formed soft peaks. And honestly, this took just as much time as it did for the sugar mixture to heat up and reach temperature. So I would just leave your stand mixer go and just keep an eye on it because you don't want it to get, too stiff. But anyways, go ahead and add your water as well as your 1/3 cup of sugar to a saucepan. You want to start by putting it on a medium heat and just go ahead and mix it together. And you're going to want to keep an eye on not just the sugar mixture, but as well as the egg whites. So you see here, they're starting to get nice and foamy. So I just ended up going back over to the saucepan and giving it another good mix. You want to wait until the sugar dissolves, and then once the sugar completely dissolves, you'll see it start to boil. Once it boils and reaches a temperature of 235 to 240 degrees, you're going to want to immediately stream it into your soft peak egg whites. Okay, so as you're streaming it in, you'll see it combined pretty well. After your sugar mixture is completely streamed in, which should not take long at all, you're going to want to start adding your butter 1 tablespoon at a time. And I would say this is where it got really scary for me, because I've never made Italian meringue buttercream before. So you want to start by adding 1 tablespoon at a time of your butter to your egg white mixture. It will go through a lot of stages. At first, it wasn't mixing well for me. So then I turned up the speed, and then it got really watery, and then it got separated. But as I was adding the last stick of butter, it really came together. So again, trust the process, because it ended up being very silky and very smooth. And I was honestly really pleased with how it turned out. It was absolutely delicious. Look at how thick she is. Ooh. I actually was working on the decorations and finished the decorations the night before, because when you leave fondant out, and I'm sorry, excuse my dog, she doesn't like the beeping of the voiceover. Anyways, what happens with fondant when you leave it out is it ends up kind of drying out and becoming harder. So it helped me with sticking on and staying on the cupcake. So I would recommend making these the night before. But here you see me making the antlers or the horns. I'm not really sure what you call them, cow horns. Anyways, so what I ended up doing was just kind of rolling a small piece of fondant into like a piece of spaghetti, cutting it in half, and then I honestly maneuvered it to kind of make it misshaped, like kind of like almost like a snake shape, if you would. I'm not sure what that shape would be. A squiggly line. I'm not sure. Just make it look like, you know, a cow antler, or I guess deers have antlers. I'm not really sure. There wasn't any rhyme or reason or, you know, specific tutorial I was following for this. I was kind of just like, you know, trying to see what would work. So play around with it. Don't be scared, because fondant is very forgiving, especially if you just rolled it out. So just give it a shot, and, you know, if it doesn't work, keep trying until you get it right. Then I went ahead and just made the little cow ears. So by that, I rolled a small piece of fondant into a ball, and then I kind of made it into almost a teardrop shape. And I did use a fondant ball rolling tool for this, because it was just the easiest thing. I didn't have like anything else on hand that could have helped me make this shape. So I kind of just rolled it along and made like a divot inside of the ear. Kind of like just smashing it down, like smashing the ball down and making a hole inside of the little teardrop that you made. Again, I'm terrible at explaining how to do this. Again, I was just kind of guessing here, playing around with it. It did take me a few tries until I got some that I really liked and was really proud of. But just, again, play around with it and practice. Practice makes perfect. I can't stress that enough. But yeah. I really don't know how I forgot to record me making the cow mouths, but all I literally did was roll out the fondant, cut it into an oval shape, use the ball tool to make 2 little nostrils, and then use the pointy tip tool to just draw the mouth straight across. And I didn't do too many with the tongue. The tongue was really easy. I rolled it out pretty thin. After rolling the pink fondant out really thin, I kind of messed with it and just, you know, made it into a really long oval shape and then bent it over itself. Again, I'm so sorry. I wish I would have remembered to record this part of the video, but I looked back and I don't know if I deleted it, if it got deleted, if I forgot to record it. I swear I recorded it, but... So what I'm doing here is I'm taking my Italian meringue buttercream and I'm just using a star tip, and I'm just putting little dollops of the Italian meringue buttercream all across the surface area of the cupcake. This is going to act as the hair for the cows. Again, I also flavored some of my Italian meringue with a little bit of dark chocolate. I used an actual dark chocolate bar with no sugar, like a baking bar, and I melted it in a like ghetto double boiler and just combined it once it was completely cooled, and it made the brown buttercream, which saved me from using the powder and drying it out. I didn't want to, you know, I didn't know how the powder, the cocoa powder, would end up turning out with it. Oh, something I also want to add, I actually flavored the vanilla icing with a vanilla bean pod that I had. You can use vanilla extract as well. You can really go to town with any type of flavors. Like, I know you can add melted peanut butter to it once it's cooled down, and it will make a nice peanut butter Italian meringue buttercream. But I just basically did the same thing. I tried to do some shapes on some of them. So you see here, it ironically kind of looked like a bunny. You see the bunny ears in the face. I don't know if anyone else could see it. But anywhoosies, I just went ahead and filled the blank canvas spots of the cupcake with the brown icing so that it was kind of just like a brown and white, because, you know, not all cows are white. I mean, most of them have spots anyways, so just kind of fill them in, go to town. I would say get creative with the shapes and the spots. You can make circles, like you can see here, I kind of did almost like a butterfly wing or something, angel wings. I mean, I wasn't trying to make these shapes, it's just kind of how how it kind of ended up looking. But yeah, this was probably one of the most relaxing parts for me, was just sitting there and piping it. Again, you can see me here just filling in the bunny ears, around the bunny's face with the brown icing. And not to get it twisted, it's not an actual bunny, these are going to be cows, but I can't get the bunny picture out of my head right now. This part was really fun. It was time to actually decorate the cupcake. So we got the hair down. Now it's time to add the actual body parts. So I started by adding the cow's mouth as well as the cow's ears. Something else to mention, I would try to find something that you want to make the eyes out of. I ended up using a black fondant where I just rolled little black circles for the eyes. I felt it was pretty self-explanatory and really, you know, something that I did within seconds. So I didn't feel the need to include that in the video, but if you'd like to see me do it in a future video, if you want it to be more detailed, please just let me know. I'm happy to do so. I went ahead and then added the deer antlers. The cow antlers. Again, I think what's tripping me up is, like, I don't know if they're antlers, they're hood, like, I don't know what they're called, but that's besides the point. So just go ahead and add them as well. You can see I'm adding the little black eyes. Oh my god, looking back, like, they're so freaking adorable. I can't get over it. This is really what pulled the cupcakes together, in my opinion. I used a grass tip with the vanilla Italian meringue buttercream, and I just put little cow hairs on it, if that makes sense. Like, I know you guys you've had to have seen those pictures of the cows that have the little hairdos and they're like blown in the wind in their eyes. Anyways, that's the look that I tried to accomplish here. My dad has been asking me about these cupcakes so long. He sent them to me like 5 or 6 times, and I was like, I have to do these for his birthday, and he absolutely loved them, and I hope you guys do as well. If you have any questions or concerns or comments, any advice for what I could do to make the videos better, I would greatly appreciate it. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed today's video, and I will see you guys next week.